Hello everyone, welcome back to Classic Comics. This is going to be my review of Cyberfrog Blood Honey by Ethan Van Sciver. I received this about a month and a half ago, and I decided it was probably time to just go ahead and do a review on it. So we'll just go and get into this. First, we have the chromium foil cover here. You can see that, which looks great. Story and art by Ethan Van Sciver. The coloring's by Kyle Ritter, who does a fantastic job. And lettering by Somni. I'm assuming that's how that's said, Somni. I don't know if Somni is a person or if that's just the name of a company that Ethan hired. I'm not really sure. Now inside we have Ethan's signature here on the initial page. So first off, I have to say that visually this is one of the most impressive comic books that I've ever seen. Every page of this comic book is just gorgeous. Now the first part of the book, part 1 here, this sort of just gives us Cyberfrog's origin. So this alien world sends an emissary, a sort of cybernetic being called Chelsin, to Earth. Chelsin knows that there's this alien threat that is going to be coming to Earth sometime in the future. Now, I believe Ethan, in his live streams, he called them the Vespa or the Vespas. I think that's how you say it. And Chelsin comes to Earth to create a champion who will protect Earth from this threat. Now, the idea is that Chelsin will use a human as a template and sort of combine the human with Chelsin's cybernetic technology to create a hero who will be able to fight the Vespas. But Chelsin lands in the wilderness, in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey. And there are no humans around, so has to settle for a frog, a tree frog, and a salamander, creating a Cyberfrog and Salim Android. And, yeah, I mean, just look at this. I mean, the artwork, the pencils, the inking is great by Ethan, and the coloring is fantastic by Kyle Ritter. He really just knocks it out of the park here. And we get Cyberfrog, and again, I mean, look at how great that looks. And the lettering is very inventive. Chelsin does not have just typical, words or lettering in its speech balloons. And same thing with Cyberfrog. His speech, his words are very, very stylized. And same thing with Salim Android. So Cyberfrog goes out into the world and attempts to become a champion and protector of humanity. But, of course, considering the way he looks, most humans view him as kind of a monster, so they reject him. And he becomes increasingly sort of jaded or cynical about humans and his mission. But then he meets Heather Swain, and look at that. That's nice. And she's basically his April O'Neil, the woman who sort of befriends him and becomes his really only friend in the world. Now then we move on to part 2. And part 2 is about the Vespas arriving on Earth. So Chelsin came to Earth in 1996, so then it skips ahead to 1998. And the Vespas arrive and they invade as the whole Lewinsky... I mean, wow, look at that. There's a lot of 2-page spreads in this comic. I mean, and even that right there. I mean, the tremendous detail on Ethan's work is just fantastic. I remember when I first saw his artwork back in, I don't know, late 90s, I think it was. I never read any of his stuff prior to DC. That was where I first saw his work. I guess it was that Flash Iron Heights special he did, I think. But I remember seeing his art for the first time. I thought that perhaps he had been influenced by George Perez, because like Perez, he puts a tremendous amount of detail into his work, particularly into his backgrounds. I don't know if that's correct or not. I've never heard Ethan say anything like that. I'm not really sure who his main artistic influences are. I think I've heard him mention John Byrne. But yeah, I mean, this looks great. We get another 2-page spread of Cyberfrog here. This looks fantastic. And like I said, the Vespas attack while the whole Clinton, the Monica Lewinsky scandal is going on. And there's so many of them that Salim Android and Cyberfrog are just overwhelmed by them. There's a good look at one of the Vespas there. They're these, kind of huge alien wasps who feed off of humans. And there's a nice shot of, Salim Android there. And then another great 2-page spread here. On his channel, Ethan has talked about how he wanted this to be his best work, or the best work he's ever done. And I think it might be. I mean, this stuff is just, what he does in here is fantastic. But yeah, there's just too many of them, and Cyberfrog and Salim Android are overwhelmed. Cyberfrog is caught in an explosion, and he gets thrown off a bridge into the water, and he sinks to the bottom, and he goes into, he forms kind of a cocoon around himself and goes into a state of hibernation. And then we get part 3, which skips ahead to the present day. Cyberfrog awakens, he comes up to the surface, and again, we get this fantastic shot here of him kind of mostly in the water, just his head kind of sticking out, and he sees what's happened to Earth, which has been devastated by the Vespas. And he wants to find Heather. He's concerned about her. Now, before the Vespas had attacked, he had stuck this tracking device on her, and so he can still detect it. And he goes out to the Pine Barrens, since some humans, I guess, have fled out there to the Pine Barrens to hide from the Vespas. And then we meet this young girl here, and they tell us that one of the rules with the Vespas is to always wear red. Apparently, they can't see red, I guess. So she puts on this red hoodie, and obviously kind of evokes Little Red Riding Hood. And then Cyberfrog arrives, and he meets the little girl. And of course, it turns out the little girl is Heather's daughter. And the story ends there. Now, then we get some bonus material. There's about 18 pages of bonus stuff. We get some artwork, some very early artwork from Ethan of Cyberfrog. And then we get some alternate covers and some pinup work, some pinup artwork here. And then some of the alternate covers with Salim Android. And they're fine. The thing is, most of the stuff, if you watched Ethan's live streams while he was working on Cyberfrog, then you've already seen most of the stuff. So honestly, I would have preferred more story rather than this. But, it's fine. So obviously the artwork in this is just fantastic. Oh yeah, and the back cover, all caps comics, Ethan's company there. Yeah, I mean, the artwork is great. I mean, every page just about is visually really just a feast. And Kyle Ritter's coloring is just great. I mean, that guy is so talented. He does a fantastic job. And yeah, even the lettering is really good. The lettering, the sound effects are all well done. But I was surprised at how good the writing is in this, particularly early in the book. In the early pages in part 1 where he sort of sets everything up. I mean, there's lots of dialogue here. Chelsin does a lot of talking there. There's a kind of a info dump about what Chelsin is, what the Vespas are, why Chelsin has come to Earth. And then once Cyberfrog is created, then Chelsin kind of explains everything all over again. First to the audience, then explains everything again to Cyberfrog and what his mission is. And then when Salim Android comes along, Chelsin explains everything to him again and tells him what his mission is. And it's all surprisingly well done. Ethan does a really good job of making Chelsin, Salim Android, Cyberfrog, Heather, all really likable characters. And there's a bit of humor sprinkled into it as well, which I think makes it an easier read. Because there's a lot of dialogue here early on. A lot. Now, as the story progresses, there's less dialogue and more action. But, yeah, I mean, overall, it is... the writing is better than I expected going in. I wasn't expecting much. So I was surprised at how much I liked the writing, and I think this bodes well for future installments of the Cyberfrog story. I think Ethan said this was going to be a 3-part story, and there will be 2 more of these Cyberfrog graphic novels coming. And I'm definitely looking forward to that. So, how about you? Have you read this comic? Did you order it through his Indiegogo? And have you read this comic, and do you like it? Do you like the Cyberfrog character? If you did, let me know in the comments. And if you want to, you can hit me up on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @ComicsClassic. That's basically Classic Comics reversed. The handle is @ComicsClassic. And please like this video and subscribe to my channel. Share this video if you would, and hit the bell for notifications for future videos. And I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching.